I'm ready to push. Oh,
Hi, all.
hey guys, welcome. Whole other podcast here tonight. Gladys and Tim, we are going to do coffee.
I know we've talked about it. We've not done it before. We're going to do it.
Can you believe in 120 episodes there are still things we have not done?
I know there's so
I know,
many drinks.
And we were thinking when we started this, we were going to run out of ideas in 6 months.
Right?
I mean, remember that?
Yes, I do. We had that conversation. Well, there are a variety. I know our French presses look a little different. This is a gift, and I thought the color was so cool. One of the things that I personally do, especially if you have a stainless steel French press, is I like to put hot water in it first, so that the blade, especially if anything is cold and then you're putting your water in there, it's going to cool it down. So I like my coffee hot. So I like to add a little bit of water before I make my, my. So that's one of the things that I personally do. You do not have to do that. I like to do that just for the reason
the temperature there, and I'm pressing mine down because they've been more than 4 minutes. So by the way, the wait time on coffee is supposed to be 4 minutes when you pour it over pour it into a French press, and then press it down all the way down, you do it slow. As you see, I'm not really heavily just pushing down. I'm just slowly pushing it down. And I mean, Gladys is going to do another method. I'm a fan of French presses. Before I worked for Starbucks, I never cared about them, but now it is to me is the way I want to have my coffee.
Right.
I'm not into drip coffee anymore. The pour over is an improvement over what the original drip coffee used to be.
Right.
You're going to do, yeah.
And one of the things to keep in mind, y'all, also is depending, and I have my pot over here. Every morning I set it. I love that because I can just set it the night before and it's going to get done. But I love a French press. It's just just something about having freshly ground coffee and then making it into a French press just has a completely different taste to it. And there are different ways of grinding the coffee based on what you're doing. So this one is for French press. And this one's a decaf, just so y'all know. I did.
Yeah, you went decaf. Tell everybody why. So yeah.
Because otherwise I'll be bouncing off the walls all night because caffeine. But this is
probably going to be up working anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Probably, yeah. So usually after 3 to 4, I usually don't drink caffeine. I'll be drinking my coffee, and after 3, 4, it's like I'm done because I don't need the caffeine. This particular one is the Italian pour over. Now, I got these picked up before I went to a conference that I was at. I put them in the trunk. When I got in my vehicle 2.5 hours later, when I walked in, I just sat in. I'm like, oh, smells like coffee. Yep. So it was just a beautiful smell of coffee that I absolutely loved. They made sure that they gave me they had the stopper. And I didn't remember that I actually had the little basket. So she not only gave me the filter, she protected it to make sure, because it was going to go into the bag. So they gave me the bag with the coffees. The coffee's in here. And they did a really good job. So thank you, Judy. She is the, store manager. And so oh my goodness. I don't know if you can see, but there is a difference. You're
going to have to hold one up close, and you have to tilt it a little bit more. You're going to tilt out. You might have to put it in a paper to show, because it's kind of a deep turn on that. So
I do have white. The French press is
it's going to be a more coarse ground.
Yes, it is more coarse. Actually, I'll put it on a plate. It is more coarse ground. And then the pour over. Here it is. Let's see if we can.
Yeah.
See, so this is more coarse. And then this is, more fine, because it is going to go into the pour over. So
it goes into the whole purpose of why we do a podcast, is because the things that taste are done differently. And coffee is one of those things that, all right, depending on how it's done, on what the flavors can be, depending on where the beans are roasted, affects the flavor. Depending on where the beans are grown affects the flavor, right? And,
Yeah.
I mean, I learned this when I worked for Starbucks is then the way you make it affects it. The food you eat with it affects it. All right.
Yes.
There is so many different ways that coffee can be, I mean, a really interesting thing. I mean, I never thought of coffee tasting before I worked for Starbucks, and now I love doing coffee tastings, but I never learned flavor before. So now when I go to a wine tasting, it is a whole nother world of flavor palettes because of what I've learned with coffees, right? Now I have two different coffees that Maddie from my local here in Oak Point, Texas. Maddie is the manager over there, and she hooked me up with two French presses, two different kinds of coffee. She did Casa Cielo, which is a special they have right now, and Yukon, which is one of her favorites that she chose for me. And then she gave me the pastries to go with it. So I mean, we've got it looks like almost like a I want to say almost like an apple tart muffin type thing to go with it, with the Casa Cielo, and a pumpkin loaf to go with the Yukon. So, which I love pumpkin loaf. All right. And I know it's pumpkin season and everybody loves, but some things I learned about the coffee tasting is one of the reasons why they use French press for the coffee tastings is when you push it down, like when I pushed it down when I come onto the show, all of the oils in the coffee are still in here, circulating around with the coffee and will pour out into my cup. When you do a drip, like the old-fashioned drip coffee, a lot of those oils that have the flavor into them stay in the actual filter. All right. And that's the way I had coffee for ages. The one way I've not had coffee in a long time is remember the old-fashioned percolator?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I had one of those.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
So, and I had a friend, a neighbor of my father's that had the old-fashioned percolators that made espresso, where basically it was a pot of espresso and he would sit and pour it. All right. But coffee, I mean, I love the taste of coffee. I love the flavors involved into it, but I learned some unique things when tasting into it. So I'm going to start with this Yukon here, pour a little bit into my cup, and I'm not going to do a lot, but just enough to be able to get my first thing of flavor.
And one thing to keep in mind is that when you're doing a French press, there are different thoughts of how to do it. So some will just stir it and then press it down. I like to let it sit for a bit before I press it down.
You're supposed to sit for 4 minutes.
Yeah. So if you do that, when it comes to the pour over, and remember, water's hot, so this is like great to have a little pour over. Could you do your own? Absolutely. If you have a basket from your coffee pot, you could do a pour over, but you're going to have to hold it over your bigger cup. So just know that. And so it's going to be a little bit different than, I'm just doing 4 ounces here. I'm not doing the full amount. But this one, when you are using a pour over, you want to use hot, not boiling water, and you want to swirl it. Mm-hmm. So when you're putting it, it's a swirl.
It's a swirl.
And there is a difference when you use a filter than when you use a basket. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a little bit of a difference. The basket might allow more of the grounds to go through.
But it also allow the oils to go through.
Yes.
That's why.
So when I see that I have a basket, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Now, this particular one, once you pour this out, and I'll probably try to make another coffee out of this because I think there's more left in there, is that I'm going to put it on. This is for my little teacup, short and stout. And so I'm going to put this here because I'm going to keep this. But it also, stay. And with coffee grounds, there is from Hawaii, there is it's not a sunblock, but it's a sun enhancer that has coffee in it. So because brown is what you want to be, is what they say. So my pour over has this little doohickey guy that it'll come right through here. So it goes right in there, and now I can pour it out so that it doesn't come out all the way. Yep. So,
which I have the pour spouts, which one of the things, if you notice when I was tasting the coffee, guys, when you're tasting the coffee, don't just drink it. You got to sip it and slurp it across your tongue That's where you find out where the flavors are into it. If you ever done with wine, you see guys going with wine. That's why they're slurping it, and the flavors are rolling across your tongue. That's where you find your flavors, not in swallowing it. So, while you're getting ready, I'm still tasting my Yukon over here. And I'm gonna have a little piece of pumpkin bread with it.
And the colors are different. I know in the pictures it will not do it justice. I will take a picture, but the pour over is darker than the French press.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a difference in color there. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to. Oh, you know what? Maybe.
Robert from Canada's chiming in.
Hey, Robert.
So,
Let's see if I can do it in a portrait mode. But the pour over Italian is darker than my decaf.
yeah.
Decaf?
Now, did you get a decaf Italian, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, so see the difference in color? This one's a little bit darker, so that's kind of fun. So I'm going to go with the decaf first.
One of the things you can actually do to try your flavors is they taught me in Starbucks was a cupping to smell.
Okay.
And you smell try to smell your flavors, like your earthy tones and stuff like that to pull it all right.
Yeah, the Italian is a little bit
Italian's going to be it's going to be earthy. It's going to you might
have
the chocolate in Italian.
Yes. So it has a little bit more umph to it that my Italian did get slightly cold because I didn't pour the hot water all the way from the top. So the bottom I didn't, even though I poured it out, I think this cooled it off just a little bit. And I also did not run it through the basket, or I did not put the hot water in the basket either. So that did cool down my coffee just a little bit. That's just my preference. But if you want cooler coffee by the time you are drinking it, then don't put the hot water to heat it up beforehand. But so they also suggested the double smoked bacon, cheddar, and egg sandwich, which I asked them not to heat up because I thought I might decide to heat it up. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll have it for breakfast. So I have that there. But I do have the banana nut as well as the crumbled coffee cake. So I normally don't eat a whole lot of sweets. I think I've mentioned it before. But in this case, I thought, well, you know what? This is going to be the sweet that I'm going to have. I even brought out my little spoons, or excuse me, my little forks, as well as my smaller teaspoon here. And we shall see how this tastes with both my coffees. So let's get.
The other one I got is the Casa Cielo, which is a brand that's out with Starbucks right now. And many Starbucks, some Starbucks may still have it. A lot of them may be out of it now as it comes into fall. It has been one of my favorites over the years. It's Guatemalan areas where it's grown, which Guatemala is a great growing region for
bananas, plantains, and coffee. And what I was told by Judy is that on October 1st, they have a new coffee coming out, and they're going to be doing like a coffee contest at the various Starbucks where, people can put up the paddles of how they like it and what they're doing. So if you are near Starbucks on October 1st, that'll be a fun thing to do.
Now, she paired it with this apple dumpling thing here. I don't know what it's called. She told me, but I forgot. With the Casa Cielo. Oh my God, the fruit into it brings out what would be a fruitiness note or a fruity aftertaste. And when you taste the food and then sip the coffee, you can actually watch how it'll pull the flavors from the coffee as well as pull the flavors from your food. which is half the reason we started this podcast was blending food with drink.
Mm-hmm.
So there is one little thing that I mean, now these are just black tasting.
Yeah. And normally I don't drink black coffee. I like my,
cream.
Usually it's my carnation sweet cream is my go-to. Once it's fall, then I do like my peppermint, or I'll do hazelnut and then peppermint. I do have coconut right now, as well as the Lucerne sweet cream. But I still like Coffee Mate because I put less of the creamer than like International Delight. I have to put way too much creamer in there and it doesn't last as long. So I do like Carnation. The Lucerne isn't too bad. That's the closest to the Carnation, or the Coffee Mate, the Coffee Mate. And it's pretty good. So right now it's coconut. So I do flip things around. French vanilla, hazelnut, sweet cream are my go-tos. And then peppermint during the fall, winter. And then I don't, I've tried the other flavors like I think it was either Snickers or one of those that I just did not care for it. It was like, not so much. So I stick to very simple. And one thing is when I have been in Guatemala, the coffee out in Guatemala, there's a certain sweetness in the coffee that I might add sugar or I might add cream, but I can drink the coffee black because it has a sweetness that is a nice black coffee with the sweetener in it already naturally. And if you're in Mexico or some of the Mexican restaurants, what they'll do when they make a pot of coffee is that they'll put cinnamon, like a stick of cinnamon with the coffee, so that when the coffee is made, there's a certain level of the cinnamon in the coffee flavor, which is really good. These both taste really good black. So I'm really impressed. The banana bread by itself, it tastes good. The coffee cake, and coffee cake was my go-to in junior high. I would eat a coffee cake once, sometimes twice a day, because they were just so good. And plus they were dirt cheap back then. So a lot of calories, but when you're running around as a teenager, burn off those calories.
So now we're going to talk about the flavors I like to add to it. I like to add a little bit of Sambuca on Saturday mornings.
Okay.
Just a little. And just I have some cream in there. This is the Yukon.
Let's see how much, because I only made
the difference when I do that though is the licorice taste in the Sambuca overpowers the coffee.
Yeah.
That is the one thing with that happens with alcohol, adding alcohol to coffee. It will overpower the coffee flavors.
That's what'll happen. There are various ways you can make an Irish coffee. All you do is add Irish whiskey to your coffee, Irish coffee. But whether it's Jameson or Tilmer I do have Jameson here. The other thing that I thought about is if I wanted something smoky, I do have the Talisker Storm single malt Scotch whiskey. This one is very smoky, very smoky. So I thought if I want to go smoky, this is the way to go. I think that it'll overpower what I'm drinking. You can make a Spanish coffee. You could add, there is a new recipe. So there's the espresso martini. The coffee martini has, instead of espresso, it has just a rich coffee. And then there's another one, a Palates something. I have to look up the name again, but it is, it's a coffee martini with vanilla ice cream. So I thought, that might go very well with the crumble. Then I do have vanilla ice cream. So that is something that I'm thinking I might do that. So, but easy Irish coffee, and then you can add cream or not add cream. That's up to you. You can add Kahlua. So there are a variety of different drinks that you can make with coffee. And I thought, oh my goodness, with so many, I'm like, where do I go? Where do I start? If you want to make a Sicilian coffee, you just add Italian sweet vermouth. You can just do a sweet vermouth, but Italian, because it is an Italian sweet vermouth, Amaro cold brew, and club soda. And then you just serve it with an orange peel. So that one I thought was kind of neat, a little different. to go with. And then there was another one, the mocha mezcal. So that one has coconut milk mezcal. That one is coffee liqueur. I personally would go with coffee instead of coffee liqueur, agave, cinnamon, and cayenne because you want that little kick. And then the other one that I thought was kind of fun was a cold brew bourbon. And I thought, ooh, that sounded kind of fun, which is your bourbon whiskey, maple syrup to give it that, smokiness, sweetness, cold brew concentrate. And then you want to garnish it with sliced orange and cherry for garnish. And then you can add a little bit of vanilla extract. So I thought that one was kind of fun. And then there's a Long Island iced coffee. I was like, oh my goodness, that's too funny. Again, coffee liqueur, ice cream liqueur, vodka, rum, tequila, and cold brew coffee. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Frankly, I would just put ice cream in there. And instead of coffee liqueur, you already have the coffee, just add a little bit more coffee in there. So that sounded kind of fun for me. And you can also do coffee, amaretto, and whipped cream. Very simple. And then there's coffee, sugar, dark rum, and whipped cream. That's the Carifar coffee with the K. So coffee, Kaffee. So it's, you can do a carajillo, which is espresso, a liquor 43, which is a Spanish liqueur, and ice, and that's it. The other thing that I've done is iced coffee. It's just ice, the day old coffee, which means from the morning, and then a little bit of cream. You can also do Kahlua, and make it cold. So there are things you can do. So a Kahlua coffee with your Kahlua, your coffee, and then you can add a splash of milk to it.
I've never really been a fan of Kahlua in coffee. I don't know why. I think I just want my hard liquor into it in my coffee alone. I think that Kahlua kind of melts it down, whereas I put half and half in my Yukon, but I don't like it in this Casa Cielo. I'm drinking it just black with the Sambuca in it.
Okay. So I'm going to go with my vanilla ice cream. I'm going to put this away. It's going to be for tomorrow. And I know that I have a...
I love it. You know what? I love it because in 2 days I'm trying to put together another event. Which is why I haven't done events in years.
And
everybody's texting me and emailing me as to why they can't come.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're too busy doing other things?
No, I don't care. It's just like some people are like, I really want that information from you.
But I'm not willing to.
I'm not willing to show up to get it. And I don't care. I won't do it again for another 3 years probably. But the people who asked me to do it, they're coming because they know it's been almost 4 years since I've done it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that it's been a while since you've done any type of event.
No.
And I am using Breyer's ice cream, natural vanilla.
I think Breyer's natural vanilla is one of the best flavored vanillas out there.
Yes, it is. That goes back in there. And so an affogato martini, 1 ounce Kahlua, 2 ounces espresso, 1 scoop of vanilla ice cream, and then a pinch of shavings. So technically you're supposed to combine in a shaker the espresso and the Kahlua, pour it over the ice cream, and then garnish. I did it at the bottom, and then
you did it your way?
I did it my way. Yep. Because
yep. Cheers. I'm using the only small cups I have are Christmas small cups.
Okay.
I have other ones that we used to have, but they're put away. They were my wife's great aunt's dishes, and I used to love them because they were small China type mugs. But for something like this, I didn't want large ones because it would take too much space into it for the air, and it could chill too quick. So anyway,
that's why I'm using these little guys, punch bowl.
Little cups. Anyway, so while we are a drinking and eating podcast, coffee. How often? I'm going to ask you this because, like, you go out to a restaurant. I know you probably have decaf because you don't do it at night, but you go out to the restaurant. You have a great dinner. Afterwards, they offer you an espresso, a cappuccino. All right. How often have you ever gotten one of them?
Not usually, but sometimes.
Mhm.
Like I went to an event a couple of weeks ago. I was with one of my insurance carriers,
Mhm.
and it was like it was family style. And when they offered us coffee, I said, "If you have decaf, I'd love some."
Yeah.
So I ended up drinking like 2 cups of the decaf
Yeah.
because it sounded absolutely delicious.
So I mean, the idea of having that after dinner coffee or after dinner cappuccino or espresso.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was one of the restaurant chains, Italian chains, and I forget which one it was that had a cappuccino with sambuca on the side, like it was a shot of sambuca on the side, and I started getting it and putting it together, and kind of fell in love with the idea. But before then, I'd really never put alcohol in my coffee until that point in time. And now we have, and Gwen and I haven't done it in a while, but usually now we take sometimes on Saturday mornings when we go for our weekend coffee, we take a flask with us. And we've had tequila in it. We've had sambuca into it. I can't say that we've done a bourbon yet. All right. We haven't done a bourbon and we haven't done a vodka yet. Right. But it's that thing. And we just kind of take take the flask out, pour a little into whatever coffee drink we have and enjoy it. Yeah. Now it's not enough. It's not a full shot because I drink small amounts of coffee.
Right.
But it's enough to give it that boost of flavor and just that little tongue buzz. You know what I mean?
And sometimes you can find like vodkas that have different flavors, like vanilla. There's some that are peppermint. And so you can add a little bit of that. This was absolutely delicious. It went very well with the banana nut, and it went very well. I think it went better with the coffee cake.
Yeah.
That one, I think it went even better. And I don't know if it's because it's coffee, Kahlua, ice cream, and it went just very well. That was like, and if you can always put the shavings on top and absolutely delicious. But sweet, on the sweet side, definitely on the sweet side. So it just depends on how sweet you like your coffee or your dessert,
Well, Maddie told me the which ones to put with which. This apple cinnamon, I want to say it's almost like a croissant folded into a muffin type deal. It's got the apples into it, so it's got the fruitiness. Even with the sambuca into it, it's still sambuca. Put it together, and now I get the feel of. I don't see nuts into it, but I get that nutty taste. You know what I mean? And pumpkin, same thing. I mean, I'm getting that nuttiness when I actually combine it. Those are things that combine. Tastes combine, right? And that's what happened in this case.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Now there is a very specific iced Irish coffee that says to combine the whiskey and the espresso in a bowl and let it stand for 15 minutes. And then you separately, you stir your sugar and your hot water in a shaker. And then you add your cold brew into it with ice, and you shake it, and then you strain it into a Collins glass with ice. So that is another option that you could do, which I thought was kind of a fun. And I do have Jameson, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do an iced coffee.
Do that one.
With that one, yeah. So again, it just depends on how much. I'm gonna do it a little different. It says it's just saying to mix it with ground espresso. Now, because I have it here, but I'm not going to do it that way because I have my coffee already made here. So I'm going to cheat a little and do it a little different than what it's calling for. But, that's okay. Sometimes you got to try different things and
try different things. You'll find out something new you like.
Yes. And that's part of experimenting, can you, and I have the exact amount of, actually less than 2 ounces is what was left in here. So that's kind of interesting that I was like, you would have thought I.
When do we stock up on March on Jameson? Is that March?
Well,
I'm joking.
This is one that I've had. Actually, I think this was from last year.
Yeah.
And then use it this year. And now I'm using, and mind you, it's the little guy. So this one is 200 milliliters. So 200 milliliters.
Which, in other words, it's very rare that we have Jameson on our shelves. We have other stuff, guys.
Yeah.
It's
And
just like Jack Daniels. We just, great product. We just want something a little different. Everybody has Jack Daniels.
Exactly. And if you don't want sugar, I mean, you could do sugar. You can do simple syrup also. So you have options of what you can do. And I do have my my shaker, and I do have ice. So I have various things. I mean, I had gotten so many different things, not knowing what's going to go well, what's going to work, what's not going to work, you know. So sometimes it's just playing around with the recipes and see what you like, you know. So because I don't have the hot water, it's in here. I'm just going to add simple syrup to it. So I'm not going to make it the same way that I normally would. So I'm not following the recipe exactly. Just know that.
So
but that doesn't mean
I did my hot water for the one French press. I did it with the same way I make my teas. I use a mason jar in the microwave for 3 minutes.
Okay.
The other one, I had started boiling water on the stove, just in a regular pot. And I didn't use it all on the second one because I had so much left over because I had enough almost for two. As I was bringing the presses in here and then going back out, my daughter was making her pasta in the leftover water that I didn't use anyway. But I like to. I mean, I like to microwave my waters when I'm doing things, but every now and then when you're doing something like this, I like to slowly. And I mean, the water just slowly was going, but I was not going to be done in time to have both of them. So I made the extra one in the microwave to do. And I think I did the Casa Cielo with the microwave water and the Yukon with the boiled water in the pot. But.
And then you could top it with cream.
Which we're not making whipped cream tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We already covered
that. But I do have cream.
But you do have cream.
Now, had I used a cream that was flavored, I would not have put any simple syrup in there because
it would have been too sweet. Yeah.
Way too sweet. As
it
is.
A lot of those flavored creams, guys, do a lot of sugar into them, and the sweetness is already in there.
Yeah, but you can always add more ice to it if you want to tone it down just a little bit. You can add more coffee. So there's various ways that you can tone it down. But iced coffee, and this is with the French press. So I'm going to, again, try my banana bread, see how I like it. Okay. It goes well with the banana.
So I'm curious to the listeners, all right, you know what I mean? Whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the replay, I want you to put in the chat what kind of coffees you like, what kind of coffees you get, where you get it, all right? We chose tonight to get them from Starbucks, all right? We're not saying Starbucks is the best coffee. That just happens to be the coffee shop that's closest to me is a Starbucks, and it's where I go every day. We also have Dunkin' Donuts here, and I've not tried Dunkin' Donuts coffees in the same fashion that I've tried Starbucks, and probably if I tried them that way, I probably would like them, all right? Because it's not about the coffee. Sometimes it's about the way it's made. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was I was watching, I think I've mentioned, I absolutely love watching the History Channel whenever I get a chance, and the food that built America.
Yes.
And they did a whole segment on Starbucks as well as the Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And Dunkin' Donuts had like the worst coffee. They really did. And when one of the franchisees, it's like going, nope. And so they started working on improving the coffee and the coffee experience and the flavors and making it better. And so they started bringing up more market share with Dunkin' Donuts, especially because of the price point. Yeah. And Starbucks, when it first started, they were using, and I haven't gone back to do their additional research, but the guy's name was Pete. So I think there's something with Pete's coffee So I think that they were originally getting their ground coffee or the coffee beans from who the name of Pete's Coffee is named after. That's my thought. I don't know for sure because
No.
they left Pete's Coffee out of it. So I was like, well, ooh, I got to research. But
no, Starbucks, I worked for them, and we got a history lesson on Starbucks when I worked there.
Okay. So share the history lesson because otherwise I'm going to go just
don't hit me 100% on accuracy, but I'm going to give you the roundabout. So Howard Schultz came up, or actually worked for Starbucks in the early days before it was what it is today. And he went and took a trip to Italy.
Yes.
And while he was on the trip, he actually seen what coffee shops and coffee houses do in Italy and Europe, and he loved the idea.
That experience.
Yeah. It was an experience, and he came back and went to the people who owned Starbucks at the time and said, "We need to create this experience for people." And people at Starbucks did not see the vision that they had. All right. And eventually Howard Schultz would leave and go create another coffee shop that had that experience. And I believe it was in the 1970s is when they were first created. I want to say it was closer to the late 70s that, and don't quote me on the timeline. All right, Howard, if you ever see this, I'm sorry. I don't remember. I don't have it memorized. It has been 15 years since I've worked for you. But I still remember it, right? Because it was a passion story for me.
Yeah.
But he started his own and he was doing very well with it. But then the Starbucks name and brand became available for sale. So he got together with investors and bought it. And then they used the name Starbucks better than what the old one that he had is. And they made it what it is. And for Howard, this was about the experience of the coffee shop. And I know they have Starbucks has a new CEO right now that I want to say is months in. And Maddie here, our local star in here, Oak Point, Texas. All right. Maddie was telling me that there's a chance that the CEO is coming to visit her store. And I hope so. And I hope I get to meet him because I have always been I'm a huge passionate person on Starbucks. When I worked for them, I loved them. All right. And I love their story. They started out with one store and Pike Place Market in Seattle. All right. In 2000, now I worked Starbucks 2005 to 2010. I left in 2010. And about a month after I left, I went on a 1-month road trip on motorcycle. And one of my places was going to Seattle. And I got to go visit that coffee shop that was the original coffee shop and have an espresso. And I know everybody else that was going there was going for the shopping experience, to get a shirt, to get something. I wasn't. I wanted to go and get a actual espresso in that store. And it was then that I found out after I left Starbucks that while working for Starbucks, I could have put in to come up and work there for a bit, a week. And I known that I would have stayed with Starbucks. I would have went up there and worked with it. But that's when my speaking business had taken me away to where I couldn't work. I couldn't do the two together. But for me to go sit in that Starbucks, and I do understand this, and I could be wrong on this, but I've heard stories that Howard Schultz, who's no longer the CEO, he's kind of like, I think he still serves on the board, but he's kind of like back, and a new CEO is taking place. Howard, I believe the story is he still has a key to that store in Pike Place, and every now and then he would go in in all hours of the night and open the door and go in and make himself a cup of coffee, an espresso inside that place, and just enjoy the atmosphere of what Starbucks was meant to be. Right. And to me, one of the things I learned about Starbucks when I was there was, and it was ingrained in our minds, Starbucks is not a coffee shop. We are in the people business serving coffee.
Right.
And for me, that became a mission about how to take care of my customers when they walked in the door. I don't care if they're coming in to buy a Frappuccino or coming in to buy an espresso, a drip cup of coffee, or to get a muffin. All right. It was all about them and not about me.
Yeah.
And I remember I had one customer for years that I worked for 2.5 years for one of the stores that I had opened, and I was the night shift manager. And we'd close about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And usually it was about 9:45. He would come in to get his decaf drinks for him and his wife and go home. And I remember having many long conversations because he would, when he traveled for business, he would bring me back the Starbucks cups from different places around the world. And I
Nice.
love that. And I don't have the collection anymore, but for the longest time, I had Cityscape Starbucks where it was Starbucks from different towns. That I just love that. And that was a customer who did it with me. So.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I think 96 to 98 where they expanded into British Columbia and then Japan.
Yeah.
So by the late
worldwide now, yeah.
Yeah, you go anywhere and it is, getting, what you're going to get.
And it's almost, it's designed on that thing that no matter what store you walk in, you're getting the same flavor every time, which is make what them and only one other franchise that has ever built the cult-like, well, no, now there's two of them, but one other franchise before them that built the cult-like following that people are new, and that other one had the same thing. No matter where you walked into one of their stores anywhere in the world, you had the same taste, and that was McDonald's. Now, the other cult-like following, and I don't know that they have that same thing because I've never seen their culture, is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has that culture behind it where people will go into a Chick-fil-A because it's a Chick-fil-A. You know, I mean, granted, here in Texas, we have a Whataburger. In California, they have an In-N-Out Burger, right? But like they haven't become worldwide phenomena yet.
Right.
Starbucks and Starbucks and McDonald's are worldwide phenomena, and Chick-fil-A is coming in closely behind them both.
Yeah, they're growing, and it's just kind of fun. It was because of Moby Dick that they came up with the Serene. So back in 1971, but it started off where they were just whole. They weren't even ground coffee.
They were a drip coffee place, and they were just like a Dunkin' Donuts, and they went different. They went a different route, and decided to create the experience. Now, I mean, you think about that. I mean, I remember in the 90s going into Dunkin' Donuts to get my coffee on the way to work every day, right? And I didn't think Dunkin' Donuts coffee was bad. It wasn't until I went to places and had good coffee. And I remember go ahead.
I was going to say, I did buy the Dunkin' Donuts creamer because it was like, they made such a big deal with all the flavors. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. It was horrible. I will never again buy Dunkin' Donuts creamer. I'm like, and I've seen the Dunkin' Donuts coffee beans at the store, and I'm just afraid to try them because I'm like, if I didn't like the creamer, am I going to like the beans? So,
well, you say that. I'm looking something up while you're telling people this because I want to tell the story more, but go ahead.
Yeah, so 1971 is when Starbucks started. In the 80s is when Howard Schultz came up with this idea, and he left. So sometimes when you are trying something and it doesn't work out and you leave, you never know the opportunities that are going to come in the future. So keep your eye outs open because you know what, your ideas are sometimes, just a little different, and you just have to go out and do your own thing because like with Starbucks, it has grown so much. And the other thing, in case you all didn't know, because this happened to me, and when they had given me a ginger latte or whatever it was, and I did not like it. And I'm like trying to like this coffee, and I hated it. The next time I came into that Starbucks, because it was near the office, I was like, I'm not sure what I want. They're like, the ginger. I said, that was disgusting. I said, I couldn't drink it. And they're all, well, what'd you get instead? And I said, I didn't. Why was I going to buy another coffee? I tried to like it, couldn't drink it. And they said, if there's anything that you don't like, we will make you a replacement. And I have only had to have done that one other time where I did not like what they made, and they made me a replacement. And there are a few little things that I've done, like when I get any type of iced coffee, I ask for ice on the side because otherwise it's mainly ice, and then I have less of my drink, especially the refreshers, the tea refreshers. It's like I finish it and then it's gone, and everything that's left is ice, and it's like no. So that's another thing that I have learned. That's like, next time I'll just get ice on the side, and so it's kind of nice that you can try different things. You can experiment. You can ask if they can accommodate. They will accommodate. Not all Starbucks are exactly the same in their service. They do try. I went into the same Starbucks. This was months ago. And I asked for a misto, and the girl was completely confused as what I was asking. I told her what it was. She goes, you want a latte? I said, no, I want a misto. I want a drip with the steamed milk. And she goes, so a latte. And I said, you know what? Just give me a drip coffee and ask what a misto is because you should know what it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, and she just looked at me like, she's probably a young girl, but I was like going, you don't put somebody at the register that doesn't know all their drinks.
Well, that's it. Most people don't when they learn. And when I remember my first day. So my first day working for Starbucks, I worked in a mall store. And again, we started later in the day, and most of the mall employees were coming by to get their drinks. And back then, we used to have to take a marker and mark the cup.
Oh, yeah.
Pass it down. And I remember, because I'm learning the system, I remember how I did it is I basically said, I said, I turned and asked my question. I said, tell me about your first day on the job. I'd be interested to know. Well, I'm trying to figure out and learn. And they're telling me about their first day on the job, having no clue that the reason I'm asking that was my first day on the job, and I was learning it. And I just looked it up. The first time I ever walked into a Starbucks, first Starbucks I ever walked in was Audubon, Pennsylvania. And the location that I went to, I just looked up, that location is not in the same location. They now have a standalone store. It used to be in a shopping center. It is now in a standalone store at that intersection. But Audubon, Pennsylvania, the very first Starbucks I ever walked into, the very first coffee I had was breakfast blend.
Yeah.
And I remember it because I was like, okay, well, I'll try that. It sounded like something I like, right? And here I am, almost 30 years later. It is the exclusive most of the time I go for coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah, it's just easy. You know what to expect all the time. For me, it was for the longest time. Because I'm not one that I'm going to be drinking a Starbucks every day. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. I'm too frugal. But I will buy the Starbucks coffee and make it in my coffee pot, which is right over here. So yes, I do other brands too. But for the most part, 80% of the time, I'm probably drinking some kind of Starbucks coffee, but that I've made at home. And for me, it was to have a Starbucks coffee was a treat. So after dinner, like you said, no, I wouldn't have the after dinner drink at a restaurant. But after dinner, if we're walking around and there was a Starbucks, I would treat myself to at the time like a $3.50 coffee, it's like if it was a $4 coffee, it was like, ooh, that's really expensive. But usually $3 to $3.50 at the time is what I would spend on a Starbucks, and that was dessert for me. I didn't want dessert, but I would definitely have a Starbucks for dessert. So that's the way I saw it. And I still don't drink Starbucks all that much, but I do have quite a few. I cashed in. I said I have all these gift cards, and they put them on my Starbucks card because I do have a gold card. I still have my gold card. Before they changed their point system, I was constantly getting freebies and upgrades. Now their point system, since they changed it around COVID, it got all weird and I can't follow it. And I've gotten absolutely nothing for free. And the amount of time you have to get your free coffee, once a year, it's like, I miss it every time. So it's like, okay. So it's,
you do get it on your birthday. You get a free coffee. I know that because my birthday was 2 weeks ago and I had free coffee.
Yeah, but they only give you so many days.
No, the free coffee. No. You have so many points that you have, and you have points wise. It's 200 points for a drink, 100 points for a pastry, and like half the time, let me see. I probably have 300 points right now that I just am not using.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, I don't want to spend money.
Right.
I have 245 points.
Okay.
Right now, and it's 200 for a drink. And my friends, Larry and Debbie, that I have coffee with every morning, I'll bet you Debbie's got close to 1,000 points. She just saves them until one day she's like, oh, I'm going to lose them. Okay, I'll use them now. Because it's like 6 months or 9 months or a year later before you can lose it.
Yeah. The thing is that you have to tell them to use it because they, like before, it would pop up and they would say, oh, do you want to get blah, blah, blah. And now it's like they don't tell you. And the whole system changed. And it was like, I can't follow, I can't track. And I'm like, I don't have the patience for this. So I was like, I'm done.
It's almost like that insurance industry. It changes all the time.
Exactly. But we have like 7 Starbucks in Wilsonville, has 25,000 people that live here in Wilsonville, and we have 7 Starbucks. And there's also Pete Brothers, there's Black Rock, and then there's Dutch Brothers. So we got
Black
them all.
Rock or Black Rifle?
No, Black Rock.
Okay, yeah, we have a black down here in Texas. We got a new one starting called Black Rifle.
Okay,
It's
now this is
becoming very, very popular real quick here in Texas.
Oh, this one is actually a black building, and it's got a star with red, as an accent, but it's Black Rock. And then, of course, we have the Dutch Brothers that's right across the street from the Starbucks that I went to. And then, of course, both of the supermarkets have a Starbucks in there, and there's another Starbucks across the way from the one supermarket, and then there's another one in North Wilsonville. So we have 7 Starbucks. And then we have a couple of other coffee shops. But this was a good combination. I really enjoyed it. The coffee cake crumble, in my opinion, tasted better with the coffee and tasted better with the coffee cocktails over the banana bread. The banana bread was good. It's moist. I love the walnuts in there. And it was fine. But the coffee cake, I think because we were drinking coffee, it just enhance the drink, in my opinion, both the black coffee as well as the 2 cocktails. And yes, this cough has not gone away. I think I'm on to week 10 now.
Wow. So over the weekend I had a whole dealing with sinuses and stuff. I had to go mow the lawn at the one rental property, and the dust just wiped me out. And I had to sleep it off yesterday and Saturday night. And this morning I woke up feeling okay. Like I still felt kind of crappy, but and weak, but I still was able to make it through my day. And it's a good thing I got up and forced myself, because after my morning meeting this morning, all hell broke loose. And one of the people I was answering was her, where I was actually Gladys to text. I'm stopping at stoplights, texting people, trying to get all the texts out. Going, I'm driving right now, but I'm trying to get home to handle this.
Yeah. So he was taking care of me. But hopefully y'all can go out and try something new. Try the coffee before you add your creamer to it. Yes. Just try it black. See how you like it. Try something new, and then try it with what you're eating. How do you like it that way? So it's always kind of fun to try something new. And remember, you can get a pour over at Starbucks.
Yes.
It will take a little bit longer because it just does. So if you want something different that is not crazy, $7, $8, try something different. Try a pour over. Try a French press.
Good things come to those who wait. Just saying, a good patient cup of coffee is sometimes better.
Yep.
All right. So anyway, and I mean, when I go to Starbucks in the morning, I have a very unique drink. I have espresso with whipped cream. And basically I want them to pour the hot espresso over my whipped cream.
Perfect.
With cinnamon on top. Baby, I'm telling you, that is my morning drink. And almost all the people at my Starbucks know how I like it and know how to make it. And right now they're getting new ones, but they usually like about 4 days a week. I have it for here cup, so I take it and sit down at the table. It's in a cup, like a mug, not a paper cup. So yeah.
Yep.
And it does taste better like that some days. Some days it's better in the paper cup, but I like that they actually do that and give us that option. All right. And sometimes you just want to sit down and enjoy a moment of coffee.
If you're going to have it there, just ask, because a lot of times they still do have it. Most people just want it to be able to go. But if you want to drink it there, just ask for it. Hey, do you have a for here cup?
Yep.
And some of them will, not all of them will, but a lot of them will still be able to accommodate. And check it out and just enjoy your coffee, because coffee is really meant to be enjoyed.
It goes down to the whole concept of our show. Like the way you drink. All right. Like what you drink. All right. Like what you eat. All right. And learn to enjoy it. You know what I mean? If the recipe you're having and you're tasting doesn't work for you, adjust it. Yep. All right. Always keep adjusting until you find the one you like. I've been drinking my espresso drink like this for probably about 3 years. Before that, there was times I did it without cinnamon. Before that, I think there was a point in time I did it with chocolate.
You got to try different things. Yeah. Today I was asked, are you going to try it before you make it? I said, oh no. I said, we'll make it on camera live. Yeah. And I said, and like we've done with other cocktails, if we don't like it after we've tasted it, we'll give it one more chance. We'll take another sip. And if we don't like it, we say, don't like it. And then we don't drink it. It's okay.
And we just put it over on the side and we move on to the next drink.
Yep. because you got to like the way you drink, y'all.
Yep.
So
Yep.
thank you for being here and joining us and learning a little bit about coffee drinks, the different things you can add to your coffee to make it special. Coffee, just like my special hot cocoa, I also have special coffee. Today I had special coffee, and this is my iced
special.
Yes.
So we gotta do some I think we should do some shout outs, because I know I don't know how well your store helped you out. My store did an awful lot. They went out of their way to prep us for tonight, and even to the point, the one coffee that I wanted she didn't have, she drove down to another store to get it, to come back and make it for me.
Okay.
All right. And then originally she was making the French presses ready for me to go bring home and push, and I said no, it's going to be quite a bit before. So she made them again with dry, and I just had to come home and boil the water and pour over. So,
Yeah.
but Maddie is the manager. It is Starbucks and the only one in Oak Point, Texas. So,
Okay.
and then the new store, it's a little more than a year old, and I want to shout out to them. I appreciate them for doing that for me.
Well, I had Judy, who was the manager. It was Tony and Carlos, the front, that were helping me with everything and helping me choose what I was going to have. But then it was Judy that came out, and I explained to her what I wanted to do. And I said, I want it fresh. And so I said, just, grind whatever it is that you would normally grind to make me a pour over or a French press, but I want it dry. So she made it dry. She labeled it. She put the stopper on there. She made sure that I had something fresh. So this was freshly ground at like 12, actually it was 1:30, because I had a 12 to 1. So it was about 1:30, making sure that I had my filter, it separated so that it wouldn't get messed up. They made sure that I was taken care of. So Judy's, this is the one in Wilsonville, but the one specifically on Citizens Drive. It is a standalone a location that's been there for a little bit, but they made sure that it was taken care of. And so my other bag was with all my goodies, and they helped me choose right, so I appreciate them. The one thing that they weren't able to do is provide the French presses, but this is what I had, and they accommodated with what I did have to be able to make myself a good cup of coffee. So thank you, Starbucks on Southwest Citizen Drive in Wilsonville, Judy and the gang. Appreciate you.
Good deals we have today. So, and this broadcast is brought to you, ladies and gentlemen, every week by Gladys and I. We will show this really quick here and mention it, and then we'll go into telling you a bit about our businesses. But we do have an Insiders Club. If you want to do drinking with us on a separate private call, as well as come to private events we're doing, go to likethewayyouDrink.com, sign up for the Insiders Club. It is free to join, but you must be 21 years of age. And then anything inside of it is there's no charge to be part of it. You just have to be 21, so you have to register. But anything we do, all right, go to events, things like that, those are at your cost. But you want to be invited to come to them, you got to go sign up for the Insiders Club. LikethewayyouDrink.com, click the button, all right, and fill in your name and your birthday so we know that you're 21. Other than that, we're going to tell you guys, this is brought up, wait a minute, every month, every week by our businesses pay for this to do it. This is our podcast. We have fun doing it. And we've been doing it for 120 episodes. And our businesses sponsor this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen. So first one that we're going to bring up here is Gladys. She's going to tell you about her business and how she can help you.
I am Gladys Boutwell with Insurance by Design. If you want to attract and retain quality staff, if you want to be that employer of choice and you don't know how, let's have a conversation. You can go to my website, Insurance Design Pros, to check out 101 different ways of how you can attract and retain quality staff. But if you want to have the conversation, go to enrollnoworegon.com, and that will be my calendar link. Let's schedule some time. Let's have a conversation and see how you can be employer of choice. Gladys Boutwell, Insurance by Design. And this is my co-host.
My name is Tim Gillette, and I'm actually going to share something today, if I can find it.
Did you make yourself your own commercial?
No, I did not. I want to show you something, ladies and gentlemen. This here is Gladys's wonderful new website. Go ahead. Tell me you don't like it.
A few pictures will need to be.
Huh?
It's awesome. Love it. I do have to update some pictures because some of them I'm like, I don't like. But once I get those done, I'll send them to Tim and he'll update them. So thanks so much, Tim. He's taking
But
care of me.
this is what I do is I help the small business people, including Gladys. All right, with her website. And one of the unique things about Gladys is it has some things are in Spanish.
Yep.
That's the first time I've ever done it. So, but we copied up some stuff and punched it up a little bit for Gladys. We've got to change out that form yet. But it all has her stuff. And the link to my company is at the bottom. All right, of course. But
Tim's been trying to do this for me, and I just hadn't had time. He had been like, okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? So this has been like months. So I've been the one that has been delayed, and then Tim took care of it. But if you want,
and it's still not done. So it's still not done, but this is the best version of it we've gotten so far. So yeah.
And underneath that video, if you look there, that's the little button where you get your free report on 101 creative employee benefit ideas for all budgets.
On my screen, it opened up, but on your screen, it did not. What's funny is because I have sharing tabs, it opened a screen for me to actually see it.
Okay.
But it did not for them. It's showing still that. Anyway, so well.
It's okay. Thanks, Tim. Yes, Tim has been taking care of me. He's been trying, and now, yay, at last.
So, but anyway, guys, Simple Easy Websites, book a time with me. All right. We'll review your website to see if we can find you a solution, or maybe we'll tell you your website's fine, just adjust one or two things and you keep going the way you're going. But you want to find out more, Simple Easy Websites. We've been doing this as a company for just under 2 years. I've been working on websites since 2009. I've been doing something or other with my own websites. So anyway, that's what I do, and that's what we do. And Like the Way You Drink is our podcast, 120 episodes, and we will be back next week with another one. In the meantime, guys, hold on. Let me stop that. Cheers. See you next week.
Cheers, Al.